Well, we're getting the next 30 minutes of the program started. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show. Business Incorporated, live to you from Channel's global headquarters. I am Bo Sinamafayi. Good afternoon to everyone. Seplat Petroleum Development Company reports 74% decline in profit after tax for 2015 financial year. The company listed on Lagos and London Stock Exchange. Nigeria expects oil producers to agree a supply freeze at Doha's next meeting, aiming to stabilize crude prices. Plus, Nigeria's National Assembly passes the 2016 budget. We'll take a look at the breakdown and implications for the Buhari's administration. Now let's get started with just coming in through. Seplat Petroleum reporting 41% overall increase in production, but revenue declined 26.4% to 570.5 million US dollars. You see the key figures there for you. A summary or the highlights of what the company reported today. The exploration and production company listed on the Lagos Stock Exchange via an IPO did on the London Stock Exchange, reporting that decline, but however above some of the estimates of 7.8% deviation. Profit after tax down 74% to 65.6 million US dollars, in line with some of the estimates of around 64.5 million US dollars. Consensus estimate for tax after tax earnings was around 2.3% negative. Earnings per share was reported at 12 American cents or US cents for 2015 financial year, down from 50 US cents declared in 2014. The directors of Seplat Petroleum Company PLC are declaring a final dividend of 0.04 cents per share, bringing the total payment for the year 2015 to 0.08 cents per share. That was lower than the 15 cents paid for as cash dividend for the 2014 financial year. Just coming through there from Seplat. Shares of Seplat fell sharply on the Nigerian Stock Exchange over the last two sessions. Let's stay with the oil business. OPEC member Nigeria is expecting oil producing states to agree to a supply freeze at its next meeting in Doha in April, which should stabilize crude prices even if Iran failed to join the meeting. Qatar has invited OPEC members and major non-OPEC producers such as Russia to meet on April the 17th to agree on a freeze following an initial deal agreed in February between Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Venezuela and non-OPEC member Russia to hold supply at January 2016 levels. It's not clear whether all the 13 OPEC members, including Iran, will attend the Doha meeting, though Iranian officials have made it clear Tehran will not agree to any freeze output because it wants to raise its own oil exports to pre-Western sanctions. Nigeria's Deputy Oil Minister Dr. Emmanuel Kachiko says Iran's impact was limited anyway, as the country would take time to ramp up production. For many markets around the world, today is the final trading day, and from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange is no exception. But a raft of economic data today from the UK, from Germany, as well as the United States. A long Easter holiday, what you call bank holiday in some jurisdictions, just getting started. Will be on in a few hours from now. So let's get this conversation up and running from Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Conrad Brusin, who is DWTV business financial correspondent there for Channel Television. Good afternoon, Conrad. Now let's get started from the German DAX counters. You look at the counters for us, what they call the trading board, and tell us what the new abbreviations, the DSW, the GFK, what do they mean? Are these new stocks on your counters?
Behind those abbreviations, both, and I have to say, are hidden a couple of very beautiful German words. Beautiful only in terms of they're very, very long. And I guess that to many of the ears in Nigeria who are listening now, they sound completely funny. Let me tell you, the first name, it's DSW, the Deutsche Schutzvereinigung für Wertpapierbesitz. Now, of course, you have no idea, I guess, what that might mean. It means that this is a society taking care of the rights of shareholders. And As every year, this year DSW came out with a list of the worst performing shares during the last 5 years. Of course, that's very interesting to see, because some of those players used to be big stars on the stock market, but now, for example, Deutsche Bank is on this list. It lost significantly, and also Commerzbank. Of course, between those big losers, also the large utilities, RWE and E.ON, who very surprisingly had to adapt to a change of strategy here in Europe. We are getting away from nuclear energy towards renewables. The other, and this might sound very funny to you either, GfK, the Gesellschaft für Konsumforschung. Well, that means Society for the Research on Consumption. It regularly comes out with a consumer confidence index. This index has gone slightly down during the last 4 weeks, but I also have to say spending is still very high. Consumers in Germany are ready to spend more on average than they usually do.
Shouldn't these DWTV, channels television relationship improve my understanding and knowledge of the German language? I guess that's something I've got to take up anytime I'm in Frankfurt with you folks, spend a few days and weeks with you and go through those terminologies. Thank you, Conrad. But again, let's stick with a bit of English, if you permit me. The Raft of economic data today from Germany, unemployment data, the UK and the US. Look at these numbers. We're heading to the final trading sessions in the month of March and the first quarter. So, talk to us. How are these numbers or this economic data flowing into the markets?
I've picked up a couple of those numbers out because I hope that these illustrate a sort of a trend that we see comparing those different countries you mentioned. Here in Germany, we are next to, of course, to the Consumer Climate Index. We got the news that builders are quite happy. They have a lot of orders to work on, because of course the wind to spend money for building. In France, the business sentiment is not so good. It has gone down during the last few weeks. Of course, we have to keep in mind that the France had to cope with huge protests in the streets of people who are against the labor market reforms that the president in France, Hollande, wants to implement. The French don't want it, and well, protests in the streets, that's not exactly what business bosses want to see when they consider investing or not, and that's why business sentiment is down. In the United States, more and more Federal Reserve officials are talking about interest rates hikes. This time it was the president of the St. Louis Federal Reserve, Mr. Bullard, who said that interest rate hike in the United States could happen as early as April. Well, that's I don't think very likely, because in April the Fed has not scheduled a press conference, only the meeting of the Open Market Committee, but you never know. This piece of news sort of has given the dollar another boost. The euro is a bit lower, and as you can see right behind me, the German DAX also a bit on the low side after a couple of gains this week. Of course, investors want to be on the secure side and secure some of those earnings of this week before they head into the Easter weekend.
Yes, Conrad, then talk to us about a year now since the German Wings, that's Lufthansa subsidiary, the pilot there deliberately killed all the passengers, crashing that a plane, commercial plane, to the size of the French Alps. It's been 1 year after that. Lufthansa seriously dented one of the world's safest carriers. But the company, the airline, seems to have been able to come out flying with good numbers as far as profit was concerned.
Well, it was a horrible year for Lufthansa, one has to say. Of course, for the people who lost their lives and for their families, it was the most horrible year that happened to them in, I guess, a long, long time. Now, a year later, Lufthansa came out with an earnings report for this year, and, well, it might come as a surprise to you. Lufthansa has managed to increase its underlying earnings by 55%, which has basically to do with the cheap price for fuel. And it also has to do with the fact that the millions and millions of euros that the airline has to pay in compensation to the relatives, the families of the victims of that horrible catastrophe, most of this money is paid for by insurance companies, and that's why the earnings of Lufthansa look quite good. Today, of course, is not so much a day of focusing on the business numbers. People here are focusing on remembrance of what happened a year ago. All of Germany is, of course, you know, too much dead, I would say, or dead people this week with Brussels and with the remembering of the Lufthansa catastrophe.
I agree with you, Conrad. There, a day of mourning for those who lost their dead ones, families and members and friends in that tragedy. The French ops by the pilots of the German wings. Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on that 1 year after from Germany, Frankfurt Stock Exchange, Conrad Boss. And do enjoy your weekend, the rest of DWTV for Channels Television, flying the flags there for us here as always. We'll come back to you after the break. Nigeria's National Assembly has passed the 2016 budget, about $30 billion US. How will this kickstart Buhari's economic administration? 1 year after, let's get the conversation going. We'll be right back in one.